everybody. Welcome back to the Brandon Joe podcast. Our guest today is Jim Desautels. He received his BA in Business Administration and Management from Marist College. Currently works at Locked In Companies as a New York employee benefits leader and is one of the founders of DisruptHR Long Island. Welcome,
Welcome.
Jim.
Good morning, gentlemen. Brandon, Joe, happy to be here. Thank you guys for including me. Excited to participate today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy. Actually, we've always talked about this before, where we're like, oh, it'd be cool if we get to meet with them like in person and have like our own studio. And now seeing the atrocious weather this past week, I think I'm kind of glad that we're meeting online.
It's good. It's good we decided to stay indoors today. It's a little chilly today in the city. I'm actually in the city today. I had to come in for a couple meetings, so not an off day for me. But it was noticeably quiet on the train, and especially commuting my normal route. When I get to Manhattan to get to my office, ghost town. So it was nice to have a little peace and quiet on the stroll from Grand Central to the office this morning.
Oh, I bet it sounds terrible over there. So I'm glad I'm home. But we have a great episode ahead of us, as we said in our intro. This is recordings mainly going to talk about Disrupt HR and what you've accomplished. We were talking a little bit about before the recording started that it's been around like 6-ish years, I think, so far.
Going on 7 years. This year will be 7 years since we had our first event, actually on Long Island. Before we started hosting the events in New York City, we were having the events on Long Island. So, yep, to your point, we're going on 7 years, and it's definitely flown by.
Yeah, no, it's so cool to have events like this, especially for such a long time. Joe and I talk about this a lot, but the value that students get and early career professionals get from their careers and like early on is so much more beneficial when they involve themselves in other things. And I feel like as we've gotten to discuss Disrupt HR and just being able to look a little more into it, it seems like something that can bring a lot of value to a lot of people out there. We one of like the first questions that we kind of wanted to talk about was just kind of where this idea came from and just overall like what to expect when you show up to these types of events.
That's great, Brandon. I think that's a good starting point just to kind of give the audience some background. So I can't take credit for coming up with the idea, but I have to give a lot of credit to Jennifer McClure, who's the Chief Excitement Officer of Disrupt HR. Jennifer is an HR practitioner. Back in 2013, she liked the best of what she saw out there in the market as it related to HR and talent conferences, and she wanted to start her own. So she brought the best of TED Talk and this other format called Ignite, where it's short, quick, fast moving presentations, and she put the two together. And it was really started on the belief that the way we've approached people and talent in the past may not be the best way to approach them going forward. Let's come together with business leaders, not just HR, but business leaders, HR, and let's come together to share new ideas, some innovation being started within those particular organizations, and really just bring people together for a fun night of networking. There's no selling. That's one of the biggest things about our event is you can't sell anything, whether it's a product or yourself. You have to really do it to inspire and really give people some different ideas to think about as they take back to their personal lives, their workplace. And it does, whether you're there, there's a lot of reasons people show up to these events, which might be some good background too. There's a lot of junior people in their career that are looking to rise to that CHRO, Chief Talent Officer title. Maybe they're there to network, just to meet people in the industry. And a lot of folks come there to learn. They're working head down Monday through Friday, working really hard, and a lot of the research they do is in their part-time outside of work hours. So we thought it would be fun to kind of put something together in the middle of the week where people could come together to hear new ideas, some disruptive, some basic. But I think what's really cool about the event, Joe and Brandon, and you guys have seen this, is the 5-minute format. So we bring in anywhere from 8 to 10 speakers. They're mostly senior HR executives, and they each have 5 minutes to present their topic. And what's unique about the presentations is each speaker has 20 slides, and they rotate every 15 seconds. They don't have notes. They don't control the slides. So it's a runaway train as soon as they kind of give us the cue that they're ready to go. And it forces them to really practice. It forces them to really prep for whatever their presentation is, whether they're talking about a personal story, how they had to overcome adversity in their life to get to where they are today, or it's something that they found was a gap within their organization and how they work towards solving that gap and wanting to kind of share it with the audience so they can sort of inspire people to kind of do the same in their own workplace. So there's so many different ideas and strategies that are shared at these events, and people keep coming back. So when you say I've been doing this for 6 years, um, I can't believe it. And people continue to show up. People continue to want more out of these events, and that's good for me because I want to make sure it's fresh and we're introducing new ideas, new concepts to the event to make people continue to come back and tell their friends because that's the biggest driver for our growth and success is just word of mouth, guys, and people continuing to go back to their workplace and their school and telling their friends and classmates about the event. And that's another reason why I'm excited to be talking to you both because of your reach and how we could sort of connect to people to pursuing their degrees, their master's degrees and wanting to explore a career into HR and talent management because it is an awesome opportunity for the younger generation. There's so many different career paths, to work in HR and talent management. Did I answer all your questions there? If there's anything I left out,
Definitely.
I'll come back to it.
No, that was perfect. I mean, it's obviously been a wildly successful venture. And as you stated, that we're excited to bring students into this limelight, especially from our programs in this IO psychology world, because so far what we've heard, it's just been amazing. And I feel like it could be a great networking opportunity. And what you brought upon the 5 minute presentations and like that whole disruption part, I think is amazing because I feel like everyone's been to these, or not your event, but events where you go and you're like, oh, I've kind of like heard this before. Like, there's nothing like, why am I even here? But it sounds like from Disrupt HR, you really go there and you learn about new and exciting ways to do work or things that have come upon. And there's not a lot of that like fluff that you have to maneuver your way through. You really get the nits and grits of it. When we go,
Sorry to cut you off because there's no time for fluff.
no, go for
Because there's no time for fluff.
it.
It's 5 minutes. There's no room. Sorry to cut you off, Joe.
No worries. I actually remember I did one of these like 5 minute presentations, and it was in like middle school out of all the places. And I remember the slides just going, and I was like, I am not prepared for this. I'm 14. You barely do a regular presentation. But no, I think that's one of the best things that I've heard about this event is that yeah, it's 5 minutes. Like you got to get that information out there. It sounds great. Are there? I know you kind of touched upon it. Are there specific themes per event, or you could have someone come on and talk about talent management, another person talk about recruiting, and then another person talk about a different HR aspect?
Very good question, Joe. And it's a question we get a lot. There hasn't been a consistent theme across the board for any of the events. And I think I'm up to over 20 events at this point over the last 6 years. And the reason we do that is because we want to bring diverse ideas, diverse, perspectives to the stage. Now, could there be a theme down the road as we continue to build this event? Absolutely, and it's something that people suggest that we explore all the time. But for the time being, I think where we're gonna, we're probably going to continue to, have it be a diverse, set of topics and presentations, because we attract a lot of people from the HR ecosystem, from CHROs to chief people officers, the people that are just beginning their career as a generalist today. So we want to make sure, we're speaking to everybody that's in that room, and not just kind of focusing on one topic over the other. But to my point, it's probably going to happen sooner than later. Just have to figure out what are some good themes and all that. But that's a great question. It's a question we get a lot, Joe.
Jim, you're talking about all the different types of things you do in these events and the different speakers and the different topics. One of the questions that I have for our listeners to kind of hear is what is that kind of structure? I know we talked about this a little bit offline, but the structure that they could expect to see when they show up to an event like this, especially as we kind of spoke to the networking side and the information side, like where's the value going to come for all these people who are coming to hear all this?
Great question, Brandon. So when you walk into Disrupt HR, the first hour of every event is our cocktail hour. Obviously, you have to be of age um, to participate in the bar area because we do check IDs. Um, but the first hour is really just networking and socializing. There's a lot of people that are there for the first time. That's one of the first things I ask the audience, like how many first timers are here tonight. And it's always half the room, which is music to my ears because it's amazing that we're reaching all these new people because we don't have a marketing budget. It's strictly on word of mouth. So that first hour is really just for people to kind of feel the setting, feel the energy. We have live music. We've been having a live band the last couple times, the Melanie Morin band.
It's so
They're
cool.
fantastic.
That's so
I
cool.
was out to eat with my wife one night in Patchogue, and I'd seen her play at another fair, and she was just performing at a restaurant. And so I grabbed her card, and I ended up calling her before one of our last events. And I was like, "Hey, are you free next week?" And she's like, "I am." She's like, "Do you want the whole band?" I was like, "I want the whole band." So we got amazing scores in our event survey just on the live music alone. The other funny thing is we have HR signature drinks. So we have like PTO punch, we have FMLA lemonade. People really like that, but it is a welcoming group, and we have people that are on my team that help me run the event. We call them executive committee members, and their job is to make sure they're going around the room, making sure they're introducing people. Because there might be a lot of people that are familiar with one another, and they instantly gravitate towards one another. So I think the way that we also set up the room kind of forces you to meet different people. And I think that's what networking is all about, going up to strangers and starting a conversation and having common ground. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing Disrupt HR if I wasn't, putting myself out there into networking. But back to your question, Brandon, I think it was Brandon, is the first hour is cocktail hour, and then we start the presentations probably around 6:15, and the presentations will go through 7:30, and then if we have enough time and we like to do this, once the speakers have done their 5-minute presentation, we line them all up on stage, and we usually have a moderator, someone on my team or somebody else, so we can ask them questions um, about their presentation, ask them about their topic. If they had more than 5 minutes, or as they were planning for this, like what's something that they had to cut out that they wish they didn't, or if they could do this again, what's another presentation they would do. And then usually after we go through all the speakers, we open it up for some audience Q&A, which is very, very, very impactful to kind of hear what else is everybody thinking about. What are some things that they liked about the presentation, and then it just starts this dialogue. So it's not a rehearsed um, type of event. It's authentic, it's real, and we're talking about very important things that are happening in the world that sometimes people are afraid to talk about with their colleagues. Um, and then after we finish the presentations and the panel, we have our meet the speakers reception. You didn't get to meet the speaker during the networking hour, the cocktail hour. You love their presentation. Guess what? They're going to hang out for another hour, hour and a half. So we usually have a reception at the end to encourage more networking and more conversations amongst our attendees. So, um, I think I've said this a couple of times, whether you're there to learn, network, um, just get out of the house to run away from the kids for a night. There's something for you at Disrupt HR.
No, it sounds amazing. I love how you guys cultivate a great environment, because I know everyone's been to those events where they're like, you're here to talk to people and look at careers and meet new opportunities. And then you get there and you're like, we know how everybody acts. It's like it's sometimes it's awkward to go up to someone or you don't know what to say. But it sounds like at this event, you guys really it's not you have people like cultivating those relationships, which is amazing. I feel like it creates an environment where people want to come back to. Because if you don't have that sort of environment, then you're like, maybe I won't go to the next event. Like the one that I just went to, wasn't as great. And the live music from Patchogue, I mean, Brandon and I've been out there before. That's amazing. They
That's
have great
awesome.
places.
Yep, and she's actually coming in for our event in 2 weeks. We have our next event on February 1st in New York City. She's going to be playing again, so she's coming all the way out from Patchogue to NYC. So we're excited to have her
Oh, we will be
at the
there.
Big Apple event. Yeah, you guys better be there. We got a great event planned in a couple weeks, so excited about that.
No, it's really cool. Like, and when you kind of break it down like that, I love that the amount of time that you guys are able to get for people to come in, because I feel like time is probably one of the most valuable things, especially for events like this. In your experience, Jim, like, do you see the value of the networking like in the beginning versus the end? Do you kind of see the value kind of grow as the session goes on because more information has been shared and people have kind of built more of a reputation throughout the events?
I do. And we didn't always have it structured this way, guys. We obviously do event surveys, and we try to listen to kind of what they like, what they don't like, where do they see areas of improvement, new ideas, suggestions. And somebody I think said, or a couple of people said, "Hey, can we do networking at the end?" Because typically we would have the cocktail hour be a little bit longer on the front end, and now we're pretty much cutting out right after the presentations. It's like, no, why don't we start earlier and leave more networking on the back end? So we feel like this current structure works, and we're certainly not married to anything, because I think that's how you evolve. It's like you got to be open to new ideas, and even if it's right now, like for example, we have the events after hours because I think it's easier for folks to get to. And it probably is, but like I wouldn't be opposed to doing something even earlier or in the middle of the day or doing a morning kind of conference just to switch it up. Um, yeah, I think it's important that we're listening to the people that are attending and keep showing up to these events just to make sure we're, hearing everybody out. And if there's if there's an area that we need to improve, like networking, we made a little tweak, and I think everybody enjoys the networking. Everybody hangs out. I joke at the last couple of events, it was almost like they were trying to kick us out because we were there a little bit too long. Um, but yeah, people want to hang out. People aren't looking to leave right after. So that's really nice too, to kind of have that feeling that you're doing something, you're building something good, and people want more of it. So, and that's the balancing act: is how many times do we have these events a year? And I don't want to do it too often to where it becomes stale. I want to do it, just the right amount. And I think 4 events a year, once a quarter, is the right cadence for us.
No, yeah, that does sound great. And I know you said the next one's coming up February 1st, I believe you said, in the city. Is is it just the location that's different? Because I know Disrupt HR was Long Island based, and now you're having your first one in the city. Is it mostly just to like change like a new scene, or is there like anything new involved? And do you guys plan to have more like city events in the future?
Yep, great question. So this is our fourth New York City event. Obviously, Long Island came first, but it's two different audiences. Do we get a lot of people coming from Long Island to the city to see the event? Of course. But as far as the structure is the same, from the networking to the speakers to the reception at the end. That's all the same. But it's obviously different speakers. A lot of them are more New Jersey, New York City based, and the attendees are typically more New York City based. So outside of the attendees, it's the same experience. We have it at Grant Thornton's office on Third Avenue, and they have a beautiful event space. The last couple of events, we've had close to 250 attendees, and we're certainly expecting those numbers for the event on February 1st. So we're excited, and it should be a big crowd, a lot of energy, and a lot of first time speakers. We have a few speakers that have presented and participated in my events before, so those are more seasoned speakers. So excited because we have a good group of experienced Disrupt HR speakers and brand new Disrupt HR speakers. And what I usually tell these folks is, you and only you know your presentation, and you're of course going to be of course you're going to be your hardest critic and feel like you left something out. But as big as it is for people that are attending to kind of get outside their comfort zone and network, it takes a little bit for me to talk to our potential speakers and get them feeling like they should get outside their comfort zone and try something new, try this 5-minute format, do something different. And they always come up to me after the event saying, Jim, thank you for pushing me, thank you for giving me this opportunity, I feel so much better. And they feel like they accomplished something, so that's really cool too. That's the magic too, when our speakers come up to us and say thank you for doing that. I feel like I did something great here, and I was able to give back to the HR and talent community. So it's fun.
Jim, that's so cool. I feel like to have an event that not only is like not I don't want to use the word challenging, but is like informing individuals, but also challenging and informing the speakers, because I feel like it's a learning experience for both. And it's really cool that you guys provide that opportunity for people to not only have a platform to speak and learn and grow, but also the opportunity for the people who are listening to hear what these speakers are discussing. One thing that I wanted you to speak to is kind of the global nature of Disrupt HR, because our podcast, we have listeners that are more than just in New York City. And we know that they do events like in Australia and in Europe, and across the US. So if you could just also speak a little bit to the global nature of what Disrupt HR is, so people can see the value not just in New York City, but everywhere.
Great question, Brandon. So when Jennifer started this in 2013, it gained so much popularity in her home base in Ohio that, I forget who came next, but, somebody called her from California, then somebody called her from Texas saying, I need to do what you're doing. This is amazing. I've heard about your event. And that's really how it's grown. And then New York came, and then I actually got introduced to this event by attending the New York City events. And then I went up to the people that were organizing that event. I said, how do I get involved? And I explained at the time that I was recently married. We were living in the city. I was going to be moving to Long Island. So he gave me his playbook to bring this event to Long Island. And then when he was ready to move back to the UK, he called me and said, hey, Jim, do you want to take over the New York City event? And of course, I said yes. But today, I think we're in almost every state, almost every country. I know a lot of my peers that are organizing the Disrupt HRs in their communities. I've gotten very close to my colleagues in Florida, my colleagues in California, Texas, across the world, just from sharing best practices. Here's what worked at our event. This could work for you guys. We have a Slack channel that Jennifer set up to keep us all connected. I have a client that has an employee down in Florida in the Tampa area. I obviously don't run the Tampa Disrupt HR event, and I think they were sold out. And I said, listen, I'm Jim. I'm the guy running the events in New York City. Can you help a friend of a friend? And she was able to attend the event in Tampa because of my connection. So, yeah, it really is a global movement. But the way Jennifer has this set up is it doesn't matter if you're walking into Disrupt HR New York City or you're walking into Disrupt HR London. You're always going to find that they're consistent in the sense that they're going to be the 5-minute presentations, 20 slides rotating every 15 seconds. The networking is completely up to us. The only thing that Jennifer asks is that we follow that 5-minute Disrupt HR format for the presentations. And that's uniform across the board. And so, it's continuing to grow. It's continuing to build on its global footprint. And, I feel like it's my responsibility as the leader of the New York City group, to make sure we're pushing the envelope, coming up with different ideas and continuing to, build on Jennifer's vision here. So for this year, we have 4 events in New York City. We're going to do 2 on Long Island. And that's plenty to keep us busy. But I also think it's the right cadence, to where it's not too often. So I think people like the once a quarter, and they keep showing up, guys. So it tells me we're doing something right. But one of the things we've been talking about for years is how do we tap into students more. We've had a lot of folks from Columbia come, a lot of folks from other universities and college come. But how do we make more of an introduction to the student body and make sure that they're aware of this event and it exists and it's a great opportunity for them to get introduced to the whole world of HR and talent management, but for networking, learning, all of the above. So I'm excited, because this is really my first entry point into doing that by talking to you both. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Of course.
No, it's really. I mean, we say it at the beginning. It's really amazing what you guys did, especially in the New York City over the past 6, 7 years. And as Brandon brought up the global nature, there's not a lot of events that I feel like are this successful and across the globe, and you're still having that like uniform nature, as you said. Like you can go to like a Florida one, go to the UK, go to New York, and there's still that disrupt HR theme, even though the speakers and the people might be different. Like that actual feeling of disrupt HR is the same, which is amazing. I'm very excited that Brandon and I get to go and see you at one of these events and experience it for ourselves. We'll have to do like a little debrief on how great it was on the next podcast. But to finish off this recording, you've obviously met some great people, done some great things. For students that are entering the workforce or trying to figure out what they would like to do next, do you have any kind of advice on how they can be as successful as you brought Disrupt HR up to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I attribute my success and the event success with being surrounded by, you hear this a lot, being surrounded by people that are on the same mission as you, that are like-minded. Um, and I feel like, who your friends are, whether it's through work, professionally or personally, I think that it says a lot about you. And obviously I have some friends that have, still living at home and not really driven, to have a career. And, usually those are the ones that you're not hanging out with today, because you're trying to make it, you're trying to be somebody. So I would say like who you surround yourself with is very important. And the people that you have around you, um, can either make or break, your who you are as a professional. And I attribute my success professionally, here at Lockton Companies, and the success of the event to the people that have been surrounded, by me. And obviously I had to network. I had to go outside my comfort zone to meet strangers to get to a place where I am today. But I do encourage the students that are listening to this and others that are listening to this is to really try to be curious, to learn how and if you could help somebody. And I think that's done wonders for my life professionally and personally, is just trying to be a friend, how you can help them, not the other way around, and not looking for anything in return. And that has, organically, brought me into, friendships with so many people that I do business with, where I consider them more of a friend than, somebody I work with. Um, so that's a long-winded, all over the place response, but it's really just surround yourself with good people and put yourself out there, and be curious and ask questions and find out how you can help somebody else, because that's kind of like my system that I've built here is, yeah, I'm just looking to help people. And I think good things come to those that are good people and looking to help people. And that certainly played out in my life. And I'm going to continue to do that, until it's all said and done.
That's awesome. I know something my family always said when I was growing up is you are the company you keep, and I feel like that kind of hits the same tone of what you were discussing there, Jim. So, but that's some newer advice I feel like, Joe, that we haven't had here on the podcast, which is really really cool. And I think from a professional career standpoint or a personal development standpoint, surrounding yourself with the right people is going to be something that's always going to help you succeed, whether it's individual or professional or all of those aspects. One thing also, Jim, Joe, and I wanted to make sure we gave you some time for is just to also just if there's any other information about Disrupt HR that you would like for people to know about, students or professionals that like we might not have been able to discuss, but just this is kind of your time. We want to give you some time that you get to discuss it at any point that you'd like.
Yeah, that's great. I would say the reason our events are so successful is because of our speakers and the people that we're able to attract to speak at our events. And a lot of them come through word of mouth. So I guess this is also a plug to, maybe HR, professionals listening out there, that we want to talk to you. We want to, we want to just have a conversation to tell you about the event, and we can walk you through our system and how we set up people for success to do one of these presentations. Because I think we have a good system. We have a lot of resources along the way. So it's not just, you give us a thumbs up, you're going to do this presentation, and then we see you the day of the event. And I do that because, that's how we're going to continue to grow. And, we could sort of, encourage people to get outside their comfort zone and do this presentation. So if any students are listening, you want to nominate your professors, your adjunct professors, that are in a role like this. Obviously, encourage them to come attend the event, but also encourage them to, maybe want to participate as a speaker. I would say the best speakers we have are the ones that are referred to us. And I've had hundreds of speakers over the last couple of years that are just amazing connections, amazing people. And we have 4 events in New York City this year. So we have one in February 1st, as you mentioned. We have April 25th. We have another one in September, and we have another one in December. I'd encourage anybody listening that wants to learn more to follow us on LinkedIn, our DisruptHR New York City LinkedIn page. Best way to follow us for announcements, speaker announcements, anything to do with our events. And then obviously once you sign up and you attend an event, you'll be on our email distribution list to stay up to date on anything and everything DisruptHR New York City. So I think that's all I got on the DisruptHR plug. But if anybody ever has any questions, Brandon, Joe, I know you guys could connect us, but I'm on LinkedIn, Jim Desautels. Feel free to message me. Would love to chat with you if you have any questions. I'm here to, be a resource as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll make sure to put the links in our description or whatever it is. But we'll make it findable. But no, I'm excited. It's a great event that I'm hoping that a lot of students follow. Because we've talked about events before. We've had PsyOp and Metro, ATD. I know we've mentioned once or twice, but this is an amazing event that we're happy that we get to speak upon and have you really explain what goes on. So for our listeners who are interested, make sure you follow it, and we will put it in the description.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jim, for coming on here. I think a lot of people are going to come and flock to DisruptHR after all this because so much value that we discussed. Yeah. So we appreciate you coming on here.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to participate. Would love to come back, and excited to finally meet in person in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Looking forward to it.
Take care, Jim.
Right. Thanks.
That was a really cool episode with Jim. I feel like, DisruptHR is something we had heard about, but to kind of get to talk about it in depth with someone like Jim, who just knows everything about it as he plays such an important role, was so informative. He did a lot for a lot of people. But what were your thoughts?
No, it was great. I'm excited to A, attend the event, and then B, spread the word about the event. It sounds so awesome, like the networking opportunities, the speakers alone. I think it's a really cool way for people to get involved in just the world of business, whether you're a first comer or more senior in your career.
Yeah, the HR side of IO is really prevalent. So the fact is there is a lot of overlap. We've had guests on this podcast like Anthony and Dr. Islam speak at these events. So there are IOs who are there, and there are people who are not just going to be there that you can network with, but also people who are going to be giving these informative speeches. So it's pretty cool, I think.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, we hope you guys do some research on your own, look up this event, and hopefully plan on going to one in the future. And Brandon and I will give you our debrief after we go on, I guess, the following podcast episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you next Friday.
Yeah, catch you guys next week.